Okay, we're up to Hey on the base. We're up to Daf Yomi, and we're Hey on the base. About 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines from the bottom. By Hedya, he was appointed as a shliach, and he wanted to know exactly what he has to do regarding b'fanei nichtav, b'fanei nechtam. He was appointed as a shliach, and he wants to know when you say b'fanei nichtav, to what extent do you have to have it written in front of you? To what extent? What? Yeah. To what extent do you have to have it written in front of you? So, Rav Achi was appointed over Gitin. Rashi, look at this Rashi, fellas. Mamuna Agiti. Says Rashi, this wasn't some pashut. The Kaimalon Kol Shena Yodea Betiv Gitin the Kedushin. Anyone is not an expert in Gitin the Kedushin, lo Yehele Esik Iman. Stay away from this. Having Mamunu Gavra Rabba, they would appoint a large person. La Rui Hekinevat. Let's think about a get, guys. You know what a get you're doing? You're fooling around with this Ravacious Ish. I mean, to go ahead and matter an Ish is right. There's no small chunk of change, so you really have to make sure you know what you're doing. So he was this person, Rav Achi, he was Mamuna on Gitin, and Rabbi Hedja came to ask him exactly how much does he have to say when he said b'fanei nichtav, how much does that have to be read? So I'm like, voice. Yeah, every single word. B'fanei nichtav means every single letter of the get you have to be familiar with. Also, came in front of Rav Ami and Ravasi. It's not necessary. What? Not at all. So Rashi says, one line does the job. One line. And maybe you should say what? You're going to be l'chumra and watch every single voice. I'll get in a rishonim. In other words, you'll go ahead and place disparaging on the previous Gitin where you did not watch all of them. In other words, if you're going to be such a tzaddik and watch all of them, they'll say, oh, the previous Gitin, they're all bottled because why? You didn't watch all of them. So that was the dialogue between Rav and Rav Rasi.
Watching one line or watching the whole thing.
When you're saying in front of me was written, correct? So the Seif is writing a get. You're a shliach. How much do you have to be able to say it was written? It was in front of me. It was written. What's written? Is the whole thing written, or even one line written? As long as one line is written, I can say in front of me it was written.
But one line by itself does not a get made.
Again, you're not making. You're just again. You were there to make sure the get is written l'shma. You don't have to. Once he starts l'shma, right? So you're writing one line. Once you know enough l'shma, you don't have to be there for every single thing. We're going to see even more. You're in your mind. You're locked into this question. Written means I have to see every single voice. You hold like Rav Achi. And the answer is no. What is considered in front of me written? One line is considered in front of me written. We're going to see a sheet in a second. You don't even have to be there by the writing, as long as you hear the sounds of. This is just funny. Like, it's like you have it's this line. It's like no. You're good. You're good. Yeah. Yeah. That would be Gehesh. Are you able to sit one seat over here? Is that possible? I know you sit there, but it's not like an airplane. No one's gonna. Right? Doesn't make light of it. Again, it's your perception of what's being written. You're still having a problem with this. Again, why do you have to say b'fanei nichtav? Right? Or that you don't have to know anything. The writing is going on the kasima. It's going on the b'fanei nechtam, right? That you have to know that part, correct? So you see that it's not so. The Shema doesn't have to be such a. Okay.
Does it have to be? If you didn't see the first line written,
again, you have to hear. You have to hear the name. You have to hear that it's written. There's boilerplate on the get. We're not talking about the boilerplate. We're not talking about the boilerplate, right? We're not talking about the boilerplate. No, that's the get makusha. That's a special get. That's only for a coin. That's a get makusha. That's only for a coin. Good. That's only for coin. A regular get is not.
But if you missed the first, let's say the first line wasn't in the Shema, if you saw the 15th line with them.
This is a get. Okay, you have to be there when it says Bachas b'Shabbos b'Shmoini Yamim Lerech Sivin Shnas Chanishas Alof, and this is this man Sheish Me'Yas Arba Chamish. Again, this is the. I'm not telling you that Allah is a Gitin, but again, this to be written for all intents and purposes, you just have to hear some of it. That's all. Some of it. That's what Rav Ami and Ravasi of the opinions. Rabba Barachana, I see Gita, right? Palga ichtav kamei, half was written in front of him. Upalga lo ichtav kamei. Us the kamei the Rev Allah. So amalei. I feel like custom by Elashita achas, even one line, lishma, shuv and it's sarich. As long as you have one line lishma, you don't need a what? One line. Look at the bottom Taisvis. I feel like custom by Elashita achas, pirish, playroy Elashita rishoina. The mistama saima lishma. All good things that come to people that wait. Right? The first line, mistama, you began the first line, then you're going to finish lishma. Good? That would answer your question, yeah? As I said, just looking now. Ravashi, my guys, Ravashi says, and this is the halacha, afilu kan kulmisa v'kan megilta. Even the kan kulmisa v'kan megilta. The sound of the kulmis of the quill and the sound of the megilta. Let's see Rashi for two pshatim. Afilu shama kan kulmisa v'kan megilta. Tikin hakulmis. He was preparing the quill, the haklaf and the parchment. Right? Shama kishetikuna lishma. That he heard that he's writing it lishma when he cuts it, and he straightened it out. So according to this, it's going on the actual preparing of the implements. The linear says Rashi, kan kolmis means kol ha-kolmis, the kol of the quill, kishu kaisif, when he's writing it. The kol ha-yuriya and the kol of the parchment, shu nishma kimishu oima kan kan. And you're hearing the word kan kan, and it seems when you're writing, if you're rubbing, that's what you're hearing kan kan. So Rashi says, even if you did not see it, as long as you heard it, and that's what Rashi says. So, Dove, you see the extreme that has nothing to do with writing every single line, right? You see,
But it has to be.
That's the halacha. This the halacha. Yes.
I don't understand. The other day about you have such a severity to get the raisa.
All the get is fine. You only know one no thing. Was it lishma or not? As long as you hear it lishma, that's enough. Again, the kosav law means the kosav law lishma. You're touching on the kosav law, right? Everything of writing. That doesn't mean that. The kosav means lishma. It means the ksiva lishma. Eidim is sirakati. The eidim that there when they give it over. What? Yeah, it wasn't boilerplate. It was written once you hear them preparing paper and things, and he begins to write, and you hear him lishma. Look, what is going to change in the middle? Why should he change in the middle? Not l'shem get l'shem this person.
No, because how can we say if you found him on the street?
Right?
You found him on the street.
Because it is chasima. That's the chasima, right? Right? No. The get has to be written. We pass like Rabbi Allah said. The get has to be written lishma. But it's enough to hear that it was lishma. You didn't have to see it lishma. You don't have to see it lishma. Again, this is a chiddush, but this is the halacha. The Gemara substantiated Rav Zasi Shita that's enough to just go here on it and hear it. I may be getting Medina Sayyam. I feel who be bias the Sefer Baaliyah. He's in the house. He's the shliach. He's in the house, and the Sefer writing the get is in the attic. It's a duplex. And he's in the upper chamber. Who Baaliyah, or he's in the Aliyah, the Sefer bias. The point being, what guys? That he never saw it. The point being, he never saw it. I feel nichtas v'yotze kol hayom kula. Even if he's going in and out the whole day, we're going to see who that's going on in a second. Kosher, it's kosher. Good. So what's the raya, guys? What's the raya? Who bias for Sefer Baaliyah haloi kachazila? He didn't see it. Elalav kegoin the shama kan kolmis v'kam megilta. That's the raya. That's the raya. He heard it. Now, Amamar means going back over the Baisa. Let's analyze the line of the Baisa. Why do we analyze in the line that said that what? I feel nichlas v'yaitza. Says who's that guy? I feel nichlas v'yaitza. Kol yom kula kasha. Man, who's nichlas v'yaitza? Who's going in and out? Ilema shliach. If you tell me it's going in the shliach, ashta hu bebayis v'seif v'aliyah l'chazil yamet kasha nichlas v'yaitza mi boy. If the shliach is going that in and out, you have to tell me that. Even if he doesn't go in and out, even if he's in a separate place, right? It works. So obviously, it can't be going to shliach. That's more of madrega, going in and out in the same room it is going to be. Even if he's in a different room, upstairs, downstairs, right? It works. So certainly, right, if it's a different room, so obviously, it can't be going to him. It's going in the seifa. So what does that mean? The seifa began writing a get, and the seifa then took a break, and he left. I feel nichlas, but kalayim, it's kosher. The get is kosher. Pshita, well, what are you worried about, guys? After the Gemara, just because he's nichnas v'yaitza, should it possible to get? Like tzricha, the nafik l'shuka, he goes out to the marketplace, the and he comes back. So Ma'udu Tema Inish Achrina Ashkeche, he found another individual, and Rashi says with the same name, and his wife is the same name, and therefore what you might be concerned what? For Amalei. The individual said, you know what I need to get? And he said, hey, guess what? I just happen to have one. Kamash Malon, you're not worried about that. Kamash Malon, you're not worried about that. So you see, what do you see from this, guys? Once you begin to get Lishma, this is a good raya. Once you begin to get Lishma, even just hear about it, Lishma, even if the guy goes in and out, you're not worried about what? Changing midstream. You're not worried about changing midstream. Good. Very good. Itmar. Bavel. Rav Amar Keretz Yisrael the Gitin, who Shmuel Amar Kichutz La'aretz. Now, what's it speaking? What's it speaking about? There's three scenarios, guys. It could be going from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael. It could be speaking Bavel to other place in Bavel, or it can be speaking about one place in Bavel. Now, we saw, again, I guess we concluded, if you're in the same place, I gave the example of Ethiopia. If you're in Ethiopia, right, we, again, is speaking according to Rabbi Lacha Shalomdu, so you don't have to worry about the Shema. It's in the same Medina, so you don't have to worry about what? Shiaris Mitzuyus the Kaima, and you'll find the person to go ahead, and substantiate again. That seems so. Therefore, if that's there that way, certainly in Eretz Yisrael is that way. Good. Medina in Chutz La'aretz. Medina in Chutz La'aretz. We said you'd have to say b'fanei nechtam. Medina Eretz Yisrael. We said you won't, even according to Rava, because there either oil or golem b'shas the Beis Hamikdash or what, or this batei din kavuyin. In other words, there's a reason to explain traffic that they would understand and be able to see. Good. Says Taisvis, guys, you have to see this Taisvis. Says Taisvis, Bavel, third Taisvis down, Bavel, Rav Amar Keretz Yisrael, Medina LeMedina Bavel Pligi. The machloikus between Rav and Shmuel is from different Medinas in Eretz Yisrael, in Bavel, different Medinas in Bavel. In other words, we're not discussing going from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael. That's not the machloikus. That's not the machloikus Rav and Shmuel. Machloikus Rav and Shmuel is, do we view Bavel as Chutz La'aretz Medina, or do we view it as Eretz Yisrael Medina? That's the way. That's the shaila. Medina again with the given. Medina Chutz La'aretz. Got to say Medina Eretz Yisrael. You don't have to say. What about Bavel? That's the shaila. Ba'isa Medina. Why? The Ba'isa Medina might Shmuel dein tzarech. In the same Medina in Bavel, Shmuel will be mighty. You don't have to say it. The Afa Gav the Omar Bikusaych. Okay, the rest you have to see. You have to see yourself. We need a little more information, but just I want you to make aware the Gemara Shaila is Machlokes Rav and Shmuel. The Machlokes is within Bavel in two different Medinas in Bavel. In other words, Ethiopia to Egypt, as we spoke the other day, in Bavel. Okay. Again, so Itmar, Bavel Rav Amar Keretz Yisrael, the Gitin, Ushmuel Amar Kichutz La'aretz. So, according to Rav, you would not have to say b'fanei nechtam, like Shmuel you would. Lame about kamifically, the Masava Rav's of the opinion Lefi Shein B'Kiyin L'Shma, V'Hani Gemiri, and therefore, since they're learned, you don't have to say it. Umasava Shmuel Lefi Shein Eidim Mitzurim L'Kaimai, right? That you can't find Eidim V'Hani Nami L'Shchichi. Now the problem is we keep on bringing this up again. The Tizbra. Rabba islay the Rava. Rabba holds of Rava. Rabba islay the Rava. So in other words, Rabba, right? He has to hold of the. In other words, if you don't find people to come back and forth, then it should not be good. Another Lishma is an irid chumra, but first base is what? First base is you got to be able to mekayim the get. So the chayra, if that's the svaras machlokes, then that makes no sense. You can't possibly explain Rav that way. Once, if you want to tell me Rav holds like Rabba, it doesn't work. You would have to say it because it's two separate places. It says, Ella, what do you have to say? The Kuliyalma being in the Kaimai. Everyone else you need a Mekayim. So so now, if that's the case, guys, this is fair, right? Guys, everyone says you have to be able to Mekayim it. So obviously Rav must hold there is a way to authenticate the get, and Shmuel must hold not. In other words, according to Rav, there must be traffic or some type of means, and according to Shmuel, not. What's that svara? Rav Sava, Kiven Deka Mesifta, since there's yeshivas in Bavel, Mishkach Shchichi, there's traffic, people going back and forth. Ushmuel Savar, Mesifta, the Beis Medrash Bacharim, Bigger sayu treaty. They're busy with their own learning, and they're not focusing on what? On a person's handwriting. They're not focusing on a person's handwriting. Says Rashi. Says Shmuel. Says Rashi, Mesifta. Yeshivas kavuas, achas besura, that was Rav. The achas ben Ardoi, that's Shmuel. V'holchin talmidim mizu lizu, u'mishara yoris lehen, u'maytara. They would go there from other places to learn Torah. So it was common to go ahead, right, and have people come. And therefore, since it's common for people to come, that is your traffic, and thus they would recognize the signatures. Whereas Shmuel said no. Shmuel says, even though I agree with you, there's learning, but nonetheless, what? They're not going to be familiar with the what? With the Bigger Sayu Treaty, says Rashi, Vein Makir and Achasimais, they're not going to recognize what? The handwriting. So that's the machlokes. So again, guys, outside. Bavel, Medina to Medina and Bavel, says Rav, don't worry, you don't have to say Fanei Nechta. You need Eidim Mitzvim Kaima, you'll have it. Why? Since the yeshivas there, people going back, you'll have it. Shmuel says, it's true you have traffic, but the people won't recognize the signatures. So therefore, you have to say Fanei Nechta. Okay, says the Gemara. We're going to prove Rav Shita. Itmanami, like Rav, that the reason is because it's the yeshivas are found. Itmanami, Amar Rav Abba, Amar Rav Huna, Asiyonu Atzmenu B'Babel Keretz Yisrael Gitin. Says Rav Abba, in the name of Rav Huna, we made ourselves like Babel, like Eretz Yisrael Gitin. When? From the time Rav came to Babel. Okay, so what would mean? Okay, so let's. What does it mean Rav came to Babel? Let's see Rashi. Yichiyasa Rav LeBavel, the Kaveh Yeshiva Besura, the Shmuel Havi Ben Hadoi. So in other words, if Shmuel was already established here, guys, Rav learned by his uncle Reb Chia, who learned by Rabbeinu Kadosh by Rabbi. Rav Kanu Polik. Rav was the earliest generation of Amoraim. And when push comes to shove, we'll even say he was a Tana. So he came to Bavel from Eretz Yisrael and established yeshiva. Once there was established yeshiva there, it created traffic between the two. From the time Rav came to Bavel, the Kav Yeshiva Besura, with the Shmuel Havi Ben Adoi, Aval Meikara, before Rav came to Bavel, Loi. The Apagav the Gemiri, even though they were learned, you know why? The Meshagolo Yechanya LeBavel, when Yechanya was the second to the last king of Yehuda, right? Before Tzidkiyahu. And his days, if you learn the Megillah, right? Where's Meir? Anyway, so what happened was Nebuchadnezzar was a smart fellow. He knows you want to do well, you get some smart Jews. So he took the Chorish and the Mesager. These are people who were, one of Megillah tells us they were outstanding Talmidei Chachamim, that when they opened their mouth, Chorish, everyone was a Cherish around them, or Mesager, Lashon Sagar. They were, so these fine people, obviously they taught the people there in Lishma. So it's not Pshat. When Rav came to Bavel, they became a little bit in the Din Lishma. They knew the Din Lishma. They just didn't have the traveling back and forth, and Rav is made to Rava. Right? Okay, so very good. So we have a Itmanami that we're like Eretz Yisrael, in the fact that Medina in Bavel is like Medina Eretz Yisrael, just like Medina in Eretz Yisrael, there's traffic because of the Batei Dinim, right? And therefore you don't have to say B'fanei Nichtav who are in Bavel. Okay, now Kasha. Must have Rav Yehuda Omer. Rav Yehuda said in our Mishnah, we were giving the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael. What are the boundaries vis-a-vis Eretz Yisrael where you don't have to say B'fanei Nichtav, B'fanei Nechtam? So what did the Mishnah say? May Rekem leMizrach, in the east of Eretz Yisrael is the town of Rekem. Rekem K'Mizrach, and Rekem has a din of Mizrach, meaning if you're being from Rekem to Eretz Yisrael, you would have to say B'fanei Nechtam. May Ashkelon in the Dorim, for the Ashkelon in the south, and from Ashkelon in the south, Kedarim. And the Ashkelon have a din like south, you have to say B'fanei Nechtam. May Akel it's Safain, this one we need because Bavel's in the north. May Akel it's Safain, and Akel it's Kitzafain. I have a Bavel it's Sfaina de Eretz Yisrael, Kaima, right? Babel is in the north of Eretz Yisrael. Babel's in the north of Eretz Yisrael. Dichsiv, Vayomer Hashem Elai, Hashem said to Yirmiyah, Mitzafain tipatach hara. From Tzafain will begin the bad, meaning the Chaldeans, the Babylonians, the Nebuchadnezzar is going to come. So you see that what he's in the north, right? The Tran Rameir Oimer, Akka Keretz Yisrael the Gitin. Vafilu Rameir Loikama Ela Ba'aka the Mekarva. Avababa the Merach Galoi. Read the Gemara. Rav Yomi asked, how's it possible to say that Bavel is like Eretz Yisrael when we say Eretz Yisrael stops spot at Akko, and therefore Bavel is way beyond Akko? And for the Gemara, who might have Rav Yomi asked the question, and he answered the question, Levar mi Bavel, with the exception of Bavel. With the exception of Bavel, in other words, every other place has a din of Chutz La'aretz, but Bavel doesn't. So Machlokes Rav and Shmuel, Medina in Bavel, do you have to say B'fanei Nechta? Good. What about from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael? We didn't discuss yet. Okay, and now, at which point in time did Bavel get this status, guys? At which point in time did Bavel get the status that you didn't have to say B'fanei Nechta from Medina to Medina when Rav came to Bavel? Good. Let's see Tyson. Let's see Tyson.
They came first, so everyone else saw knew it when they came to Rabbi.
But again, that's not enough of B'fanei Nechta. We need B'fanei Nechta al Swad al Skim Shtaris. We're worried about we're worried not about the Shema. We're worried about a forgery. Okay, look at guys. Fourth Tyson down. So what Rashi said when Rav came to Bavel, meaning the halacha was known. But when Rav came to Bavel, it created traffic. You had yeshivas. You created what? A thoroughfare, and you had people going back and forth. Pirusha Kuntris says Tosfos, the Harbi yeshivas, the Hebrew yeshivas. When Rav came to Bavel, it increased the amount of yeshivas, creating traffic. The Kasha Dem Kain Ma Parch Masnisan Dem Yaakov et Safain, right? Shenishnis Kaidim Shaba Rav LeBavel. Guys, Fred Gemara Kasha. How could you say Bavel? What? Has a din of Eretz Yisrael? Akko is the end. Akko is where do we see that in our Mishnah? When the Rav came to Bavel? Afterwards. It's not a kasha. You're right. Until Rav came there, when the Mishnah was written, Akko was the end of the line. From Akko and onwards, it was Chutz La'aretz. The Bavel. According to you, Rashi, when Rav changed the landscape. As soon as Rav came to Bavel, literally changed the landscape, and now you don't have to say it. And our Mishnah was speaking until Rav came to Bavel. That's the most kasha. Like Rashi's pshat that Rav coming to Bavel, right? That's when it was established the din of Medina. You don't have to say. So what's the kasha from Gemara? Gemara is speaking when before Rav came. The machlokes Rav and Shmuel is after Rav came. You're asking from the Mishnah was Tanoim before Rav came. Gavaldik Kasha. Anyway, answer twice. The first Rabbeinu Tam, if you ask Rav LeBavel, you know what that means? V'hoyrulanu she meimos yichonyo shegolo imoy LeBavel achorish ramasager dino eliyos ke'eretz Yisrael legitin. In other words, this was previously paskened. It was paskened by the fine Talmidei Chachamim that were niggling to Bavel. Rav was the one who was Magal to them. Rav was the one that was Magal to them that was the din all along. Even B'mei Tanoim, the din was that it had a din of Eretz Yisrael. Guys, even B'mei Tanoim, they had a din of Eretz Yisrael. Now you have a kasha from our Mishnah. How can you say as a din of Eretz Yisrael? The Eretz Yisrael stops at Akku, and Bavel is much farther north than Akku. Yeah. So he's not learning that Rav created yeshiva system. He said Rav paskin the halacha that had been already paskin previously. That Bavel has the din of Eretz Yisrael. That's the chiddush. Rav is, in other words, Rav is telling them that halacha that they didn't know. Rav gave him a psak. All along, Bavel had a din when Medina like Eretz Yisrael.
Saying that because Rav came, you open the yeshiva, now you have
No. It's nothing to do with opening yeshiva. Taisus is saying it has nothing to do with opening yeshiva.
So how do you have kiyum?
Right?
Nobody went back.
Yeah, again, the halacha was that Bavel.
Part of Eretz Yisrael, you don't need kiyum.
You didn't. Again, you would have kiyum. You would have kiyum. Yeah, that's the halacha. That the halacha was they came there, and they passed in that way. In other words, they came there, they saw the mitzias, and they passed in that way. But it had been lost along the way. So Rav came and reminded them. But not to say that Rav created the halacha there. Okay, that's the way Taisus says. And now the Gemara's kasha makes sense. And the Gemara's teretz makes sense. With Bavel Bavel, except with Bavel. Now, ad heichin hi Bavel. At which point in time do we have that halacha of Bavel? That it has a din of Medina. So Amra Papa kamachloikas liyuchsin kamachloikas legitin. We best Hashem Yisbarach. We're going to get to the last parak in Kedushin, fellas, and the when it comes to yuchsin, you're supposed to marry a miyuchas. You have to check into yuchsin, the person's status. So the most least miyuchastic place is chutz laretz. The area that you said the chutz laretz is like Isa to Eretz Yisrael. Isa means what? Dough. What's dough? It's a mixture. You mix it together, right? So the yuchsin and chutz laretz is mixture. It's like Isa compared to Bavel, to Eretz Yisrael. And Eretz Yisrael is Isa to Bavel. The yichus in Bavel was better. So now where the status of considering miyuches, where does Eretz Yisrael, where does Bavel, until which point? So the Gemara gives a marker. Naturally, we don't know this marker, but they knew it, right? You're passing over across the bridge. Forgot about it. You're getting Brooklyn, leaving. That's a little marker. Did I have the marker still on the George Washington Bridge? You're entering New Jersey. There used to be a marker there in the middle. It's still there. Yeah. Okay.
In the tunnel they have it.
What?
The tunnel they have it.
In the tunnel they have it. Oh, you woke up?
Yeah.
Okay. He's sleeping. It's good. Anyway, now says the
Once he sees it.
okay. So now at Heichen Bavel, Amar Papa Kimachloikas LeYuchsin Kamachloikas LeGo. The same Machloikas they have by Yuchsin, that's considered a Yichus Linyan Bavel in Eretz Yisrael, and in Chutz Laretz that's the same Machloikas by Gitin. Rav Yosef Machloikas LeYuchsin. Avol Gitin Divya Kol. Everyone says it. And Divya Kol is what? At Arba Tonina de Gishra. It seems to be that there were willow swamps, and there were two of them. And the second one from the bridge, that's the one. Okay. Rav Chisda Matzrich, Rav Chisda required to say Mefani Nechtav, May Aktisvin Lebei Adisher. Aktisvin was not in Bavel, and Lebei Adisher was in Bavel. So he required to say, however, May Adisher Lachtisvin Loi Matzrich. And from May Adisher to Lachtisvin, which was from Bavel to Chutz Laretz, he did not require it. Very, very interesting. The same question. Rabbi Slay the Rava. So how can you possibly say from Aktisvin you didn't need to? Bahani Kivin the Ozri Lishuka. Adashir would go to Aktisvin. They would go to the Shuk in Aktisvin. Lahasam and Hanich Yodei Bechasimas Yodi Dahani. The people in Aktisvin they had a Shuk, and the people of Adashir would come to the Shuk. They would buy on credit. They would sign notes of debt. In other words, so therefore the people, the Meichrim in Aktisvin, they were familiar with the signatures of the people of Adashir. Therefore, it was unnecessary to say B'fani Nechta because they would recognize it. However, Hani ben Hanich lo Yodi, the people in Adashir did not recognize them because they were busy. My time, but B'Shukai, they were busy in the Shuk. So it had nothing whatsoever to do with the Shema. We destroyed that teretz. It has everything to do with Tzarech L'Kaimai. And again, Tzarech L'Kaimai seems to be a recognition of a signature, and the Aktisvin had a reason to recognize they were the merchants. They had on hand their debts of notes of notes of debt, and therefore they recognized. But Adashir did not recognize Aktisvin. Rabbi Avu Matzrich me Arsa la Arsa. He would require from one row of houses on one side of the Shus Rabim to another row of houses, another side of Shus Rabim. Rav Sheshes Matzrich me Shchuna l'Shchuna, 3 houses, one to the next. Rabbi Matzrich ve'oisa Shchuna, even one house. For Haravu Dama l'fi Chayin Mitzun l'Kaimoi, right? So l'Chayra, why in one house? Shiny b'nei Mechuzah Denaidi, b'nei Mechuzah Anaidi. They're busy. The guys, they're busy. People who are busy running, going this, they don't know people's handwritings. They don't. It's not pshat. It's not pshat. We learn Tzarech L'Kaimoi. So what do we learn? There has to be traffic. There's 2 things. There has to be traffic. There also has to be what? A recognition of a handwriting. So guys, this is a very important taisvis. From this little line Gemara that said people are busy, look at the bottom taisvis. Shnai b'nei mechuzah naidi, bottom taisvis. This has got to make the blog. Shnai b'nei mechuzah naidi, mikan poisik Rabbeinu Tam. From here, Rabbeinu Tam paskins. The hashta bisman hazeh. Now, in our day and age, meaning in the Middle Ages, tzarech loymar b'chol mokayim b'fanei nichtav, every place. Guys, afagav the kaimlon kirava, dama l'fisheni the mitzuyim the kaimoy, b'lei mishal nishma, b'chol mokayim tzarech the hashta b'chol mokaymos naidi k'bnei mechuzah. No one knows any handwritings anymore. Everyone's busy. Bisman hazeh, that's the halacha. You have to say b'fanei nechtam. So everything's a moot point until now. They have to say b'fanei nechtam. That's the halacha.
It's the smart part in every way because nicer
They learn the Shema. They learn.
No, yeah, no, I'm saying you write Sefer Torahs, you write Kings Lashma still, so you still learning.
They know the halacha. It's known the halacha. Lach shalom. They know it. We
Even
pass-
Eretz Yisrael?
Yeah, even in Eretz Yisrael. Even
Wow.
Eretz Yisrael. Even Eretz Yisrael. Anyone who brings the get has to say b'fanei nichtav b'fanei nechtam. That's people don't use shlichus, but sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. He said b'fanei nichtav b'fanei nechtam. I'm gonna say here's we're putting on a camera. He's speak clearly. Go ahead.
Thursday night, a rabbi asked me to sit in on a Kabul Shlichus on a get from somebody in Eretz Yisrael, and he said in front of us, "B'fanei nechtam, b'fanei nechtam," and that he actually wrote the get, and he wrote some monim of what he wrote in the get to prove that it was a valid get, and we had to sign a shtar that he is appointing somebody else to send to give it to the wife in Eretz Yisrael. So we signed it. We had to sign 3 times.
Halacha l'maisa. Halacha l'maisa. You see, and yeah, halacha l'maisa.
Like the one thing.
Yeah, that's he does.
Yes.
This is
What?
very-
Chalices also.
very-
Getting in chalitzas.
Other things also, hashgachas also. Big hashgachas.
Wait,
No,
Bon-
seriously?
Conagra.
Majority of Israel, the Rabbanut, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, okay, we're getting back to our regular schedule program, and we're good.
There you go.
The higher authority.
Okay, anyway, but guys, that's an important thesis, yeah. That little nakuda of that little nakuda of 90 that people are busy. That's the reason why Bismana said we don't. Even though people are next door to each other and physically you should be able to go ahead and get the find Adim, you won't find them because think about it. Does anybody here in this room know my signature? I don't know your signature. We've been together for 7.5 years, man. 30 years. I don't know your signature. You don't know people's signatures, especially when everything is an email, right? It's certainly right. It's you know your email address. You don't know a signature. So certainly it's just fascinating that it's to me, I love one line of Gemara, how it impacts everything we just learned. Just one little thing. Shiny mechuzah 90, and therefore, even in the same house, you have to say funny nachtam, boom, and that's the din. It's just that's shmak. Anyway, says Gemara weiter. Rav Chanan Mishtoi told over that Rav Kahana Aisi Gita, Rav Kahana brought a get. He didn't know from one place that was it going from Surah to Nardoi, or min Nardoi to Surah. It was in Bavel. It was going from different places. He didn't know which one. Asla made the Rav. He came in front of Rav. Amalei. Rav told him, he asked him. So Rav Kahana asked Rav, do you have to? And Rav, what did Rav Shita, guys? Rav, again, our whole Gemara is speaking about this case, right? Going from Medina in Bavel, and Rav said, "Ain't it tzarich?" So he said, "Like tzrichas, you don't have to tell me." On the base, the of this ahanis, and if you do it, it helps. What does it mean? My of this ahanis. What does it mean if you do it? It helps. The osi bal ma'arer. If the bal comes and is going to complain, you're not going to go away. I don't listen to him. Okay, like again, let's go back over the Masechta, guys. Let's go back over the Masechta. The purpose of funny nechta is not a chumrah; it's a kula. It's to make that if the Baal comes and complains, you're going to believe this shliach over the Baal because the shliach won't be ma'arin nafshe. He's not going to go ahead and place himself in a situation because he knows he's going to have to give it in front of 2 or 3 dayanim, and therefore we believe him that funny nechtam lishma, right? Or funny nechtam that this is not a forgery. That this is not forget lishma. That this is not a forgery. So therefore, since he knows it's going to happen, Rav says it doesn't. You don't have to, but guess what? If you do it, it can't hurt. Adarabba, it's a good fail-safe in case the balks come out. Kidatanya, Ma'aseh ba'adam echad shehevi get a taisefta. He brought a get lefnei Rabbi Yishmael. Amaloi tzarachni loim fani nichtav fani nachtam ve'enit tzarach. Amaloi b'ni mehechen ata where you from? Amaloi Rabbi mikfar sisai ani. I'm from Kfar Sisai. Amaloi. So he said tzarach ata loim fani nichtav fani nachtam. So tisokek le'edim. You know why you have to say it, guys? that you won't have to go ahead and come and depend upon Eidim because you're saying you'll be believed versus the Rabbi, you'll be kind like Taisa said, you're Nemanis, you're going to believe the guy. So now, Mashma guys, let's be medayik. Really, al pi halacha, do you have to? No. What's he saying? In case the Baal comes ma'arer, you won't have to come to depend upon Eidim to go ahead and authenticate because we're going to depend upon you. Again, what does the shliach say b'fani nechtam do? It goes ahead and takes off the table the need to authenticate the get, authenticate the Eidim. That's what it helps. So Rabbi Shmuel said you have to. Why? After the person went out, Rabbi Loi came in. Amaloi Rebbe, like for us the same of laws between Eretz Yisrael. The Krevel Sipur Yosem Yaakov. So the it's in the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael, and you should not have to say b'fanei nechtam. V'tznan Reb Meir Oimer Aku Keretz Yisrael Gitin. V'afilu Rabbanon lePligi Led Reb Meir Ela B'Aku Demer Achka Al V'Pratz Yisoy Demer Karva Loi. So in other words, so Amaloi Shtoik B'ni Shtoik. Since it goes out, it went out, right? Since it went out, the funny Neflam has the kula for an isha, right? The heta yatsa. It's a good thing. So now, what was Rabbi Loi getting upset about? What's his kasha? Rabbi Shmuel didn't say you have to say b'fani nechnam is it a kuva? He said it's like them. So what's he asking him? In other words, he was asking him. It's not chutzlar. It's where you have to say. It's when the krasi soy is within the boundaries. It's close to an akul. Rabbi Yishmael agreed to that. He said, just say it as a fail-safe. Shlei tezakik le'edim. So what happens? Says the Gemara. And for Gemara siyumi kanei. Rabbi Loi didn't hear the whole story. He just heard one thing. He heard what? That Rabbi Yishmael said you have to say b'fanei nechtam, and he thought it was what? Alpi. The din of like chutzlar, it says the din of chutzlar, and the answer is no. He didn't hear the end of it. That what he said, no, really, it has a din of Eretz Yisrael, but you say it in order to avoid that what the Baal coming mar. Shalach le Rav Yasa le Rav Chisda Gitin abah mishom lekan ain't tzarich lem lefanei nechdam a get that comes from Babel to Eretz Yisrael. Guys, this is the second part of Tosfos. Remember I told you Tosfos said it's speaking in Medina Eretz Yisrael. How do you know it wasn't speaking me? But when you learned the Gemara. You learned that speaking, someone brings a get from Babel to Eretz Yisrael. How did Tosfos know not like that? Because here the Gemara is first going to introduce it and argue. Here we're first having it. They were speaking. There was speaking Medina in Babel. Because here first we're introducing me Babel to Eretz Yisrael. That's how Tosfos knew. Says the Gemara here over here. You're bringing a get from Babel to Eretz Yisrael. Do you have to say what does he have to say? You don't have to say. Let's say Leimik Selfish Aim Bekin Lishma, they mamish hack this right. Bahani Kamiri, the Tizwa Rabbi like the Rabbi, Elakuliam Milakima. The Kim the Ikka Rabbim, the Salke Venachte, that people commute back and forth from Babel to Eretz Yisrael. Mishkach Shchichi, you'll find Eidim to go ahead and what? I mean, the signatures. Rabbi Yosef. Now, Rabbi Yosef obviously disagrees. Who said this, Rabbi Yosef? Rabbi Yosef. Man Leimalon, the Rabbi Yosef, the Evyasar Bar Samchahu. Who's telling us that what? That he's a person to be Simichan. Who's it telling us that what? That he's a person to be Simichan. Meaning, we're going to see an incident now, and from that incident, it's going to lend credibility to the credibility of Yasa. So Rav Yasa is saying you don't have to say b'fani nechta from Babel to Eretz Yisrael. Says the Gemara. 1 second. Let's goes with the gears on the side. The Hashalach kick out the void. The Hashalach le Rav Yasa le Rabbi Yehuda. B'nei Adam ha'olim misham lekan. People go up misham from Babel lekan to Eretz Yisrael. Hein kaimu ba'atzman. They makayim themselves. The pasuk vayitnu hayeled b'zayna v'hayaldim machru b'yayin b'yishtu. Okay, now so this pasuk is speaking about people who would go learn Torah and leave their wives. They gunim. They wouldn't either they would be mevatel pirivivia. According to Tosfos, they wouldn't provide food. The bottom line is it's not important for that sugya. The only thing we have to know from the sugya is the following: the kosav lei b'lei sirtut. Rabbi Yasa, he wrote this pasuk without the use of the sirtut, the scratching of the lines. Rabbi Yitzchak, shtayim koisvin, 2 words you can write without sirtut. Shloisha, 3 words ain't koisvin. 3 words you can't write without sirtut. The Masnis and Tana in a Brisa we learned Fleisha Kaisvin, 3 words you could write, Arba Ein Kaisvin, and 4 words what you cannot write. Okay, this is only guys if you're worrying why if you write a pasuk, right? How come you don't write Sirtut, guys, right? So Yardea, Simon Reish Pei Dal, that's only if you use Ksav Ashuras. It's only if you use Ksav Ashuras, guys, right? So if you write, why don't you have to write a Sirtut when you write down a pasuk? Because none of you hopefully write Ksav Ashuras, correct? Like, none of you write Ksav Ashuras. There's a big thesis over here. This is a big sugya. So Sirtut's a big sugya. It's not a sugya. It's a big sugya. Now, it's a sugya in Megillah. If mezuzah, the mezuzah needs sirtut, tefillin does need sirtut, according to this Gemara. How do you shtim Gemara? It says, how can you say that tefillin does not need sirtut? After all, it says over here, you can't write 4-3 oisias. So when it says tefillin doesn't need sirtut, it means not the whole thing like a mezuzah. Very many times it's just the first line. Right. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to Abaya. So guys, one second. So that's Firais. So if your Rabbi Yosef said what? That from Babel to Eretz Yisrael, you don't have to say Fanei Nechtam. Rabbi Yosef says, who is this Rabbi Yosef to be Samechan? After all, he wrote a pasuk without using Sirtut. And Rabbi Yitzchak says you can't write 2 oisias without Sirtut, 3 oisias without Sirtut. Says Gemara, Amalei Abaya to Rabbi Yosef, to call the Yada Ha, Rabbi Yitzchak, Lav Gava Rabahu. You mean to tell me if you don't know Rabbi Yitzchak's memory regarding Sirtut, you can't be a great person? If it's something that's totally in the person's logic, so Gifla, I can tell you that. But Ha Gemara, this is halacha. The Gemara, you didn't hear this halacha. So in other words, says Rabbi Yosef, Abai is coming to go ahead and tell Rabbi Yosef, don't disregard Rav Yosef so clairvoyantly that like what? Just because you know this halacha, and then you want to say therefore he can't tell you the din of Babel to Eretz Yisrael? But then it says Abai to Rabbi Yosef, I'll tell you another reason. For Rav Yosef, the askim mori al yodei. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was maskim to him. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he said a pshat, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu was maskim to his pshat. So obviously, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is masking to his pshat, meaning he revealed to him a secret. Rashi says, "Legalus lesoid lechavim devarim hastumim ala misasam." He was able to go ahead and unlock something that was so unclear. So if Rabbi Yosef was not a great person, HaKadosh Baruch Hu would not have gone ahead and revealed this to him. Okay, guys, outside, a lot of background over here. In Sefer Shoftim, at the end of Sefer Shoftim, there's 2 maises. There's a Maisa Pesel Micha, and there's a Maisa Pelegesh Begiva. Unless you learn Nach, you never heard of this in your life. As a matter of fact, the first time I heard in my life is when I learned the Gitin. This is the first time I remember coming to this. It was from Mars. So if you never learned this before, you're in the same boat I was 50 years ago. Anyway, here's the story. There was this man. He had a Pelegesh in his house. Pelegesh is a woman who is machloikas whether she has kedushin or not. She has no ksuba. She doesn't have ksuba, but she lives with a man, not for the purpose of peer review. So he had his Pelegesh, and he was very difficult with her, as we're going to see in a second. And she ran away. She went home to daddy. Her daddy lived with some Shevet Binyamin. He lived in Giva, the town of Giva. The man went after, came to the house, and there was a bunch of Bnei Belial, low lives from Binyamin. They came and they were Teveya, the man for Znus. The man, instead of going out for the Znus, offered his wife instead of Pelegesh. They took the Pelegesh instead of him. They were ma'anis the Pelegesh. They abused her. She died. The man was chapter shrek that this could happen in Chal Yisrael. He cut her up into 12 pieces and sent them to all the Shvatim. Sent a piece to all the Shvatim that this is what can happen when there's no unity in Klal Yisrael, when there's no king, when there's no central force, that each one does whatever he wants to do, he does. As a result, Klal Yisrael bonds together to go ahead and punish these lowlights, Bnei Lial from Binyamin. They come, they go to Shevet Binyamin, they offer up, and Shevet Binyamin says, "We're not giving them to you." A civil war breaks out. In the first 2 days, Shevet Binyamin was successful because they didn't ask Goim B'Tumim whether to go to war, and then they did ask. The bottom line is, Shevet Binyamin was left with 600 people. 600 men. It was unbelievably terrible Maisa. So this Gemara is describing the beginning of the Maisa. Rabbi Yossi is going to go ahead and something in the Maisa. See, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Megalos Soy to him. So vis-a-vis the digression, but vis-a-vis Masechta, how can you, Rabbi Yosef, go ahead and say Rabbi Yossi is not a great person, that he couldn't pass in the halacha, that from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, you don't have to say b'fanei nechtan. Clearly, he's capable of doing that when the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, A, so he didn't know halacha from Rabbi Yitzchak. B, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Megalos Soy, had to explain a pasuk in regarding the Pelegesh Begivas. Here's the Maisa. It says that the Chsiv, but Tizna love Pelagshay, his Pelegesh, she turned away from him. What does that mean? Rabbi Vasu Amar Zvuv Matzala, right? He found a fly. Rabbi Yonasan Amar Nima Matzala, he found a hair. Va'ashka Rabbi Yosef Eliyahu, and Rabbi Yosef found Eliyahu Hanavi. Amalei, my cover HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Rabbi Yosef asked Eliyahu Hanavi, what's the HaKadosh Baruch Hu doing? Amalei, Oisik with Pelegesh Begiva. He's busy with Pelegesh Begiva. Umayka Amar, Amalei, Ev Yosef B'ni, Kachu Eimer. Ev Yosef B'ni, this is what he says. Yonasan B'ni, Kachu Eimer. So Rabbi Yosef said his Vuv, Rabbi Yonasan said a Nima, and that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying. Amalei. So Rabbi Yosef said to Eliyahu, Chas v'shalom, Amika Sveika Kamishmaya. There's no suffix. It's either one or the other. So Amalei, Eliyahu told him, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. You, both you, Rav Yasa and Rav Yonasan are correct. Hein zvuv matzah v'lehikbid. He found his zvuv and he wasn't makbid. Nima, he found a here, matzah v'hikbid, and he was makbid, and she ran away. Rav Yehuda zvuv b'kaira. He found a fly in his food, in his soup. The Nima b'oisei makom, he found b'oisei makom b'shas tashmish. Zvuv mi'usa. Zvuv he found disgusting. The Nima sakanta, because the here could have made him into a krushavcha. Ikad army idri b'kara. They found both in the food, both the fly and the hair. The full of einsa, that was an einus. He felt out, but she couldn't have. However, Nima b'shiyusa. She was Nima was b'shiyusa. And if Krista says, "I'm a Krista loylam al yatul adam emi ser b'tech beisa." You should not place too much fear in your house. Trey pelegesh begiva hitler habayla emi yisera. That he pila kama river b'is Yisrael. That what happened was that as a result of this person being such a fair person that he was so makbid and everything, she feared him so much that after this incident with a fly in the hair, she ran away. And as a result of running away, look what indirectly happened. Not tens of thousands of people in Klal Yisrael were nifta.
By Shabbos also, right?